All right, babes, it's Bimini, and welcome to a brand new episode of The Pieces. And I am joined by someone who has turned emotional vulnerability into a form of power, from studying classical flute to filling stadiums, Grammy wins, and celebrating their inner children. Today, I am joined by Cian Ducrot. All right, babes, how's it going?
I'm good. How are you, babes?
I am very good. It is a sunny day.
It is.
I have been getting through my to-do list, which is very difficult, but we're good. We're moving. How are you doing?
I'm good. I mean, it's been sunny I don't remember the last time it rained, so I'm pretty stoked. And
Well, I went to Norfolk recently and it was raining then.
Oh, yeah.
Yesterday, the day before, so bit shit.
I guess I won't be going there then. I'll stay.
No, we were talking about it just before the camera started going. We're talking about iced coffee because it's very LA. Talking about the day, I said day I invented, I didn't mean to say that.
Yeah.
Day I realised you can have iced coffee. You've got a little iced coffee on the go now.
Yeah, I got a little iced coffee here from the local, you know.
I love your rings as well. Is that like what's the blue one? I wish I knew about jewels, but I just...
Well, this one here is definitely like a turquoise.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing these other ones, which are way more expensive than this one was, are probably turquoise as well. But I've had this for years. I bought it in Camden Market, like in 2021 maybe.
Amazing.
And then I just had these on they were just like on a photo shoot, and they're from the Great Frog. And every time I go to the Great Frog, nothing ever fits. You know, you go in there and then you have to spend ages, and they're like, "Oh, we'll find your size," and then you order it, and then you can come back. I was like, "But I don't know what finger I want it on." Anyway, I was on a shoot, and they had my stylist just had loads of rings that she had got the biggest ones she could from Great Frog, and they all fit. So I was like, well, I might as well just keep these ones because I'm never going to find, because I have huge fingers. So like if anyone ever shows up with rings, I'm always like, they're not going to fit unless they are the biggest size ever.
I have tried to have rings on every single finger and I just can't maintain it.
Yeah, really. I feel really like nude without like all that kind of stuff. It's very strange. It's just like, I guess like I started as like a teenager and then...
Well, I feel like it's part... So obviously this podcast, we talk a lot about identity.
Boom.
And I feel there we go. I feel like you start finding your identity. Mine was through fashion.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, some questionable, but some fab, you know? And
it really
helps
like, though, for sure.
Yeah, and I think that was kind of my way into like discovering my own identity and not an identity that other people kind of were forcing on me or I was expected to do. How did that come about for you when you were discovering like just your style?
I think like one thing I've realized recently is that you can be multiple like versions of yourself, whether it's the art that you create or clothes that you way you present yourself. And like today I've probably worn like 3 different outfits already, you know? And like some of them are things that I never would have imagined ever wearing in the past, or in the past sometimes I dressed even more crazy and now I dress even more crazy in like the version of me that goes on stage. And you also realize that like the clothes that you wear and the things that you do can really like you're saying, create your identity. And so if you have a life where you have to almost be 2 or 3 different people for different reasons, you know, I think like as a musician or as an artist, sometimes it's hard because you have this version of you that can be the sort of like person on stage, the person that some look up to, the person that to some people is famous or all of this kind of stuff, or is in weird situations. Then there's also the version of you that's like the son to your mom, and you can't be like a famous singer that like gets stopped for photos when you want to be like a son to your mom or a boyfriend to your girlfriend or whatever it is. And you kind of realize that you can switch on those identities almost with like, I realize clothing helps a lot, like fashion, and like there's something about just getting in the zone for these different like things. So I think like, what you choose to, I think so much about fashion. I love it. I think it's really fun. It's really interesting. And it's also very satisfying. It's an art. So it's like, I think if you're creative, it's something that you will just you can find a lot of like interest in. But I always dressed very differently like my whole life. And I loved sort of self-expression and doing whatever I wanted to do. I dressed up a lot. Me and my brother dressed up all the time. We would wear my mom's clothes. I would wear my mom's clothes as like casual clothing that I just loved. And I grew up in like Cork in Ireland, in the south of Ireland, in like a town called Passage West, which like everyone, not only in Passage West, but all of Cork City, all my friends growing up, all the people I went to school with, like they just wore tracksuits and that was it. They swore by that. And I never wore a tracksuit in my life.
You never had the tracksuit era?
Not until I was like 23 or something.
Yeah.
Not until the lockdown and the pandemic, I was like, I might start wearing some comfy clothes. And now I'd never been seen outside the house in a tracksuit. I wore jeans, I wore shirts, I wore probably terrible things or I wore something cool that like was my mom's and she was like, oh, this doesn't fit me. And I would put it on and be like, this is sick. And if you're like a 12, 13-year-old boy or a 10-year-old boy, you'll fit into your mom's clothes and it might look cool as hell, like something you've seen in a magazine. And I love rock stars. I loved all that kind of music and they wore the craziest clothes and the coolest outfits. And also like you change, so you grow and the fashion changes. But I've loved like sort of in the last kind of year finding my way really back into that and working with stylists and finding things that I like and understanding why I like certain things and what looks good on you and what you can pull off. And then also doing things that you can't even pull off, but it's just fun,
I mean, if I look at my Getty, they got me sometimes. Getty got me good and I didn't know what I was wearing, but we did it. We move.
I love it though. I think it's so important to just
in the moment I wanted to wear it.
Yeah, and that's what it's all about. And like sometimes
totally.
You want to wear something crazy. Sometimes you just want to be completely simple. And some days you might wear trackies. That doesn't mean like you can't dress absolutely crazy the next day,
Do you think fashion for like the newer generations has just kind of become a bit more diluted? Or do you think that like younger generations are pushing it more? Because I feel like I used to always look up to like so many like musicians, rock stars, artists, pop stars, and they were always pushing fashion. I just feel like everyone's a bit more like safe with it now.
In terms of like a younger generation, I don't know. I think like we also live inside this very strange bubble where the life that I realize like the world that I exist in and that you probably exist in is not at all really the real world. And so like, I don't know what, like if you go back 10 years ago when I was hanging out with kids that were like my age and we were in school or high school or, sometimes I catch a glimpse of like a group of guys or girls and I'm like, oh, they're probably in high school and they're all dressed exactly the same, like baggy jeans on the floor, like puffer, North Face, like they all look exactly the same. But I was like, we probably all did as well, at that time. And so it's hard to know because where I see fashion is in, artists or people that are performing on stage or like sort of the maybe not the 1%, but like the 10% of people who work in the creative kind of strange industry and world that we work in. So I do see interesting fashion there. Not always, but I think what's maybe different now is it's more normal to not be normal, not be what we have like sort of stapled as the normal thing. So, when maybe this might be completely incorrect, but potentially when Lady Gaga was dressing absolutely crazy, it was like, wow, but she influenced that so much that now it's become more normal to see that kind of thing. So when more people do it, you're not like, oh my God, it's just like, whatever, like people, it's cool that now more people do that. So maybe it's just more accepted and normal. Not fully.
We see more of it, I guess. We're so exposed to so much now.
Yeah.
Where do you look for like your fashion inspiration or like where do you, different eras? Is it just everywhere?
Yeah, I think so. Like, I think I definitely use it. I find it from different eras. I find it from anytime I see something I like, I'll just screenshot it or I'll save it. Or also you have to kind of start to like trust your instincts, and just be like, I think that's cool. Or you could be in a shop and like, I don't know. I obviously have like stylists that I work with now as well, but I think it was really, really hard to work and figure out and work well with stylists before I had an idea of what I wanted to do. And it was really when I figured out like, this is my style, this is my identity. And I could be like, that's what I want to do. That stylist was then able to help me achieve that by sourcing pieces, sourcing outfits. You can find it anywhere really, but I love classic kind of stuff. I love stuff that has a bit of like nostalgia to it in a way, but also has a bit of like, it has to like harbor like emotion for me or something. And for me, like nostalgia is maybe one of the strongest emotions that ties us to certain things. It's like, I saw somebody said something really great one time. It was just a random video, but it was a guy saying that he like vlogs his entire life and he just does it for himself because he does all this amazing stuff. But in the time that he's doing it, he struggles to really like take it in when it's happening. And I understand that because I've stood on a stage in front of 20,000 people in my hometown and I was like, didn't really understand what was going on. I didn't really like 100% embody like what was happening. And it was like an hour or 30 minutes or 2 weeks or 2 years after when I look at a video and I go, oh my God. And this guy said that like nostalgia tends to bridge that gap of like emotion. And so I think like it's true that like you really can kind of create emotion with how you dress and how you show up. And I think for me, I like maybe something kind of nostalgic, something, and maybe that's not the right thing to do. Maybe it's about going forward or I don't know, but I like when there's like an emotion to it. And I think it's nostalgia.
Yeah, and I feel like everything comes back round, and I think picking pieces from different eras is fun. I love the creative process of putting looks together, whether it's like a head to toe moment, if it's on stage or if it's a red carpet.
Yeah.
How do you find red carpets? Do you like them?
Horrible.
Yeah.
Such a horrendous experience.
Step and repeat, step and repeat. I mean, it's fab. When I was first going to them, I was like, this is the best thing ever.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, it can get a bit.
I'm just not like, I don't really like posing and I find it's quite hard. I don't like posing when there's loads of other people posing and doing it right and I don't know what I'm doing. And so I started to just kind of be like, you know, do the, like if I'm at a show and it's my concert, like obviously I have photographers and it's always really like candid or my photographer just like stand there, do whatever. And I can sit and I can pose in those kind of ways, but I'm not very good at sort of like, you know, everyone's changing and like what cameras you, and I just feel like I'm just like, this is not natural to me. So I struggle with it. And then you just kind of like, you don't really know what's going on and everyone's getting like shouting at you like, no, longer at this camera. And I'm just like, I don't even know what this is for. Like,
and they're shouting your name, like over here, over here.
Yeah. And it's a strange
world.
It's a strange world. It's a very strange thing.
So we're going to get into the music, a little dreaming, and I want to talk about that, but that's all about reconnecting with your inner child.
Yeah.
So I want to go back to your child and finding yourself and like who you are from there. So you got into music quite young.
Yeah.
Family.
Yeah.
French, Irish.
Yeah.
And that was always around you, right?
Yeah. So both of my parents are both professional musicians. I don't have a relationship with my dad but and my mom, both classical musicians. So I was just born into it, which is, I understand, is a huge privilege. It was such a special thing, but I think in many ways it also was this thing that helped me in a lot of difficult times and helped my family, helped my mom as a single mom, helped brother and I as kids that were sort of going through all this stuff. And it was just like, it was like fully our identity, you know? It was like, I am just obsessed with music, you know, and creating music, performing and writing and like it's like everything that I am. All of the interest that I had kind of stemmed from there, performance-wise, whether it was making YouTube videos, being passionate about growing a business, like whatever it is, like all of it like came from the idea of like music and making a living from music and moving people or just doing something that felt like it had like a really powerful purpose or something.
What music was around? What did you hear? What were you listening to as a kid?
Honestly, just like classical music was pretty much the only thing that was like
Really?
in
Wow.
my house. And it's kind of strange because I've like ended up being a songwriter and a producer and I work in pop music and so many different genres that like influence my music. But like there was just classical music for so long. And then my brother kind of started playing electric guitar. Then we discovered like rock and roll, metal. And we listened to so much of that. Like that was Guns N' Roses, Led Zeppelin, Metallica, everything, Muse. Like we just had boxes and boxes and boxes of CDs, every single album by like all of these bands. There was a guitar solo. We had it because my brother Sess was guitar playing and I was a drummer. Then we played in bands. We made bands together. And that was kind of like the first step out of classical music. And then I discovered pop music like really later on. Like maybe my mom had a couple of CDs. I think there was like Westlife, Michael Jackson, Eminem, I say like Enrique Iglesias, and like just a couple of rogue CDs that someone would just give her as a gift. Or like I'd have a childminder and she would like have a CD or play it in the car. And we'd be like, what is this? And like, I think I was lucky that I discovered artists that were that good. Because otherwise I probably never would have gotten into it. I just didn't like it. And then suddenly I was like, wait. I mean, Michael Jackson undeniably made some of the greatest of all time. And so to have discovered pop music and that, and really like it's pop music, but when you actually listen to Michael Jackson, like it's very rock and roll. There's so many influences when you watch documentaries about the making of the music. It's like, oh yeah, like there's like Van Halen and like Slash from Guns N' Roses, and like this beat is like rock and like they were making a rock song. But yeah, that was kind of how I discovered that. And I did musical theater as well since I was like 4 years old. And through that, there were like singing lessons, songs would come in. The Man Who Can't Be Moved by the script. And then one year it was like, there was a group and they were like dancing to the A-Team by Ed Sheeran. And it was like when Ed Sheeran just first came along.
Yeah.
And I remember being like, oh, this is beautiful. Who is this? And I was so fascinated with pop stars, and like I was just obsessed with like Eminem and Michael Jackson specifically and their life and their sort of who they were. And back then it was so like, couldn't get enough information. You had to watch documentaries, you had to watch like every YouTube interview of them. It was just like a glimpse in, and you just wanted more. And I was so like, how, I don't understand it. And then somebody like Ed came along, and he just was like, for me, the first person, I guess it had been done maybe more in the US or you know, now when you see like Bob Dylan or things like that, like obviously had those kind of things that happened before, but it wasn't maybe as public and as obvious, their story. Ed came along and it was like, here's this lad who just like picked up a guitar and just like made it happen. And that was kind of the first time I was like, does that mean I could be a pop star? Like I still for a long time thought people were like born that way. Like I still thought like Ed Sheeran was born just like, I don't know, it's a weird thing. And maybe you are born destined to be something, I don't know. But yeah, it was a very weird journey. I got a record player maybe a few years ago, and then I needed to buy a sound system. And I finally bought a sound system because I have to approve like my own vinyls. And I'm now always like, I've never even listened to my debut album on vinyl because I didn't have a vinyl player. And now I've bought like, I have one now. But like 2 days ago, I bought like £600 worth of vinyls because I was like, I want so many vinyls. I love it so much. And there's so many records that are so obvious to everybody, whether it's Fleetwood Mac, whether it's the Beatles. And like, I've never heard them. I put them on. I'm like, okay, I've heard these songs and I know these songs, but I never really like, same with like even Bob Dylan and like things, and everyone knows them. They know all the words. And I'm like, this music is amazing, but I was just never exposed to it. And I was like, it just wasn't a thing. It was like, you know, my version of that was probably Led Zeppelin and Guns N' Roses and all that kind of stuff. So I kind of missed like a bit of a section of stuff. So it's kind of like a discovery I've been going through over the last like maybe 2 years, from even like Elton John and stuff like, and I love it, and I find it so amazing. So it's really cool.
I think that's so, yeah. I remember getting into psychedelic rock and in this like from the 60s and going through all like the Janis Joplin and like Bob Dylan, all of that, finding all of that music years ago and being like, this is amazing. Like this isn't what I've been exposed to, what I've heard. I mean, I grew up with Bowie. Like Bowie was my dad's favorite, and like my mum always liked music as well. But yeah, when you find new music, it's the best thing.
Yeah,
I love dance music, so electronic dance music is like my favorite thing. If you go vinyl hunting, you can find some obscure songs that you might never have heard before.
I know, there's so much.
Cool.
There's so much out there, and it's such a cool. I was just like, let's just get a couple of random things. Yeah. My girlfriend's like, "What's that?" And I was like, "I don't know, but let's get it." And it's $8 or £8. Like, let's grab it, put it on. We'll see. If it's crap, it was the price of a coffee in LA, you know? I love it. Yeah, I didn't have that, like, everyone always talk. My girlfriend knows so much music. Like, she was the one who kind of revealed to me that I was like, I don't know anything. Like, I know everything about every classical music and symphony ever played, and, you know, all of these rock songs or all of these things. There was such a period that, and a style and all this stuff that I'd like completely missed. And she would have had that thing where like her parents were like huge fans of bands and festivals, and they went to Glastonbury and they played the Kings of Leon and Red Hot Chili Peppers and all of these different things at home. And so like, and everyone I know is like, oh yeah, like all of the Beatles, like my parents played the Beatles always at home. I'm like, I just didn't have that. Like my mom was just in the other room practicing piano all the time and playing concerts, and it was classical music. And when you're so surrounded by music as well, sometimes it's like the last thing you do is put more on. There was a few things from like my stepdad at the time when me and my brother were into like rock and roll, where he would give us listen to Clash or the Cream or whatever, these different things. But at that point we were already kind of doing our own discoveries. So it's funny because I feel like so many people have that thing of like, oh, my dad's favorite artist was David Bowie, or like I've never listened to, like I still have to put a David Bowie record on and listen from top to finish. Rod Stewart, whatever it is, so many amazing Pink Floyd. Like I've still not done it there because there's so much music so much. And it's like so good that I'm like, I don't want to just like throw it on like on my phone. You know, I want to get the record. I want to put it on. I want to go listen to it the way it's meant to be listened to. And then hopefully I can be that when I have kids one day and be like, okay, I'm going to play you music so you don't end up like me, clueless at 27.
And that'll be like just in the brain by then.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like the CDs are gone. We've got Spotify. They'll just be like, yeah, just play that song now in your head.
Yeah. I'd be like, hey Siri, play David Bowie in my child's head.
That's crazy to think though. But yeah, I think like, music and discovery, I think is a really big part of like finding yourself as well. Yeah. Fashion and music were huge for me, especially in my teens and like kind of rebelling in that way. But when did you think like, this is what I want to do? Like, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life?
I kind of always knew it was what I wanted to do. I don't really have any memories before that. I dabbled in, I used to be a skateboarder and I really thought maybe I could do that for a while. And then I always wanted to be an actor as well. But I love acting still, and it's definitely something I'd love to get into a lot more. I get to do it in music videos, things like that, so I find that really fun. But I think I think music was just always like the obvious thing.
Yeah.
And it was like no question that I just couldn't get away from it. And it's also like, it's that kind of thing that you do that like if you're good at it, like you are not at anything else maybe, or like it's the thing that you can really find like so much joy from by being good at it. And I guess maybe like identity and understanding of yourself. And, I was definitely very different like as a kid. So it was like, oh yeah, but that's because I do like music and nobody else does. So I'm just like this kind of person. But like, discovering musicians and stuff definitely helps you find who you are more along the line. And I still do that like a lot. I still feel like I don't fit like what maybe makes sense for a lot of musicians. Or like in my mind, I'm like, people are often like, yeah, but this person, it's like all of their songs sound like this and this. And I'm always just like, my music can sound so different. So many songs, and I'm like, but like, why do I have to? I don't want to just make folk songs. I don't want to just make sad piano ballads because that's not who I am. I want to make like something. I want everything to be so. I just want to make like without.
To you
in
the
just
moment,
exactly. That's why I got so inspired even by Elton John in the last few years because I listened to his albums and it was like, this guy just did whatever he wants, like you'd have like a super folk song and then a sad piano ballad and then you have like a song about going to space or whatever, like it doesn't matter. But it was like, it was Elton and he did that and he did it the way that he wanted to do it. And it's like sometimes you need to find yourself almost in someone or in, and I noticed that even a lot about Ed and probably why I was so inspired by him. And he wrote a lot of music for other people. His music is kind of multiple different styles and now everyone sees it as like, oh, that's Ed. But like I remember when his second album came out and he put out Sing was the first single. I remember like all of my friends, we were all waiting, we listened and everyone was like, hell, it sounds like a Justin Timberlake song or something. But now you listen to it. I listen to it obviously all the time, but I listened to it the other day with my girlfriend. I was like, it's crazy how much this song just sounds like an Ed Sheeran song. But back then, we didn't understand that part of him yet. And everyone was I always thought it was an amazing song. But I remember the reaction all around was like, oh, it's kind of like, I mean, he did it with Pharrell, which was like Justin's main collaborator. So it had this like vibe that would have been in that music. But now you listen to it and you're like, it just sounds undeniably Ed. It's the same with like Shape of You. Now you hear something like that, it's like Ed Sheeran. But at the time, everyone was like, oh, strange. It's very kind of like poppy, clubby, And it's just about like doing something where someone goes, oh, what? And then once you've done it, if you do it again, they're like, oh yeah, that's very Cian Ducrot, And it's like, for me, what I connect with the least, maybe because I have such like ADHD or I don't know what it is, but I cannot get on board with something when it's just the same thing. And I find it's a pity because I know some great music out there that people love, but I put it on and I go, but it's just the same song 14 times. And like, I'm so bored after the first 3. And so maybe that's like for me, like why I can't create that way. And you just have to be like authentic to yourself. And
I think some of the best musicians, the best artists have done what they want and pushed forward the genre of music or different styles. They've not really conformed with it. And I think that's the way to do it. Because
Yeah.
I think like I'm inspired by so many different things at different periods of my life.
Yeah.
If I was to make the same thing, it just feels like it's not authentic or it's formulaic, you know?
You're constantly, changing your influences. And it's funny because like this new album for me is like the greatest thing I've ever made. And, I have no idea what the success of the album will be, but I know for a fact that it's really, really good music. And I can stand by that because I spent so much time making it good and trying to make it great and trying to actually make something that's like people would listen to and be like, wow, it's really like everything about this is really great. And so many times I've been in discussions about certain songs and somebody will say like, oh, like the kind of rock and roll section in this song, and I'd be like, I didn't even think about it like that. Like I have no idea what I was doing in terms of style or, sometimes we'd be writing it or I'd do something and someone even in the studio would be like, oh, that like reminds me of this band. And I'm like, no idea who that is, but it's cool that it reminds you something from the 60s or the 40s or the 70s, But it's kind of funny because I don't have much knowledge about it. It's like I'm just doing it by accident or subconsciously, or there's a lot of choices that I've made in this album where it's like some people are like, oh, I think you should change it. And I'm like, well, I think it's good because these chords, for example, represent a song that is extremely British. And this song is about being in London. So like thematically, it makes sense that people feel this certain nostalgia of a certain time of a certain country around a song so like there's so much to art that is like subconscious and that like you shouldn't often question in the moment when you're doing it because it comes, especially if you're not copying things. Like there was no point in this process where I made anything based on anything. Like it was very much, I tried to do that and everybody goes through that phase where you're like doing that. But I wrote over like 110 songs for this album. So like when I got to the end, it was at the point where I was like, now I'm just going to make whatever the hell I want to make. I'm just going to go and have fun. And that's when I actually made the good stuff and the stuff that was like trying to do something specific, just trying to make something and go following my gut, my instinct. Some of the songs have no structure of what like regular pop music would have or whatever. And that's just because I followed my intuition. And I think that's like, get to that place. It's such a fantastic way.
How did you get to that place? Take it 110 songs out on the album?
No.
So you had to whittle it down.
It's really hard.
To, like, get done. So that's hard. If you've made pieces of music and it's like things that you've put your heart into.
It's really hard because you're going to let down the fans as well because there's music out that's not going to make the cut that I think they really want. But in the end, you kind of have to do artistically what you believe is the right thing. And it took a really long time to figure it out. And I have no idea if what I did was right. I just have to stand by them in my taste right now. And maybe 10 years from now, I'll go, that was a terrible decision. But I just started writing and writing and writing. I wrote everywhere. I wrote in every situation I could. I wrote on my own, at home. I wrote in the mountains, in the Alps. I wrote where I would ski all day until 4 p.m. And then I would go to a chalet and like write songs by myself. Wrote with people I'd never written with before. I collaborated. I didn't collaborate. I made music with friends for fun. And it kind of just was like, I tried to do certain things. I tried to just do what was natural. I tried to do something specific. I tried so many things. And eventually I probably got to like 70 or 80 songs. And it was like there were signs of something happening in there. There was like this, I like this, or like these two songs I'm listening to a lot. Why do I like these more than these ones? Or this song has a feeling I think I'm liking where this is going. And then I started to just kind of do the only thing that I hadn't tried, which was basically like not try and do what I think I should be doing or what would be right, or like, and then I basically was just like, I'm just going to make stuff that I really enjoy, and I'm going to make music that like if there was nobody in the world listening, it was just like for the purpose of me making this album and then really enjoying the process of it and then really enjoying listening to it myself on a desert island. Like, how would I create? Like, how would I get to that place? I think sometimes we limit ourselves and think like, oh, I can't do that. And you realize that if you're not thinking that way, like how are you going to make something really great if you don't actually try? And I was listening to so many albums that I loved, that I thought were fantastic. And I listened to everything that I loved about them. And I would say like, what I love about them is like the songs are great, but also you can hear like the effort. You can hear that it's not just like, oh, let's put some bass in. It's like, let's think of a really great bass line. Then let's make it even better. And then if it's not good enough, let's scrap it and then write another one. Or let's like reharm the whole song. Let's change the key. Let's go up. Let's do a key change. Let's slow it down. Like all of these things that take so much time, and you actually have to like spend days or weeks or months on a song to really craft something, not just like a quick song. And maybe the quick song could be more successful, could be bigger, but that's not necessarily what I want to make music for. Like I want to feel fulfilled from the songs. I want to listen to my songs and go like, this is class. Like I love this. I think this fulfills me as much as listening to my favorite artists. And so that's what I just decided I was going to do. And I was like, worst case, I've got 70 or 80 songs already. I'm sure it'll make a good enough album. If I fail for the next however many songs I write. And then that just like unlocked the most creative energy that I'd like ever felt in my entire life.
That's every artist's dream though, I think, to tap into that.
100%.
Listening to you, like you're very insightful. You're very like, I could feel that you're so passionate and it's like, it's your love. It's what you do. And that's something you should never lose.
No, 100%. You have
like trying to make a TikTok song.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I will never do that. I will never try to make music for TikTok because so much more than that. And we've seen over and over again, like that doesn't work.
No.
It doesn't, it's not like, there's no longevity in that. I think if your music happens to take off and work on TikTok, which mine did, which I was very fortunate, but I also pushed so hard, then that's great because it's like, you didn't make it for TikTok, but it worked on there.
And that's how it works the best, I think.
And that's how it works the best because you also build artistry and you build real fans and you can sell tickets and play shows. But it's so up and down, and it's like you just have to, know that like you do really realize like, and I say this so much, but it's so cliche. Like you don't learn your successes, you only learn in your failures. And I think you have to take those moments as like lessons. But I also believe in, I think I believe in fate and like that things are what's meant for you is what will come and what's right. Like I have sometimes opportunities come along and like you can't seize them. And then you just have to think to yourself, if I was meant to do it this way, I would do it this way. If that was meant to be that way, it would be. And instead it's this way. Maybe that's for the best and maybe it's even better. And I guess
just always got to follow your heart.
You do exactly. And just believe, because I also think if you really believe, you will try the right thing.
Well, that's what Little Dreaming's about, right?
Exactly. Dare to dream big. And I think like, I look at my life every day and I just think like, this is crazy. I was watching some videos of myself back on my like archive on Instagram and just looking at those videos going, if only he knew like where he was now and what he's doing. And like, it's just insane. Like I remember the questions that I had in my mind back then that have just all been answered. And it's like, I wish I could be that version of myself now to see like all the things I get to do.
But he did know, otherwise you wouldn't be here today.
It's true. He did know. And it's like, there was this like, it's crazy because there is part of you that knows. And I do think that's a weird thing that like in your mind, you just know. I think people also see that in you and they feel it. They're like, this person just knows that they're going to do this thing and that's it. Like no one's going to stop them. And like no one will ever stop me, or like nothing will ever stop me. And I think that is one of my favorite things about everything that we do and about life and about like, no one will ever take your ability to do what you love, to be passionate, to pursue, for me to write songs, to make music, to be like obsessive about what I do and to love it so much. Like no one can take that away because it's just like I've had it since I was a kid. I've always had it. I'll never lose it.
So Little Dreaming is out on July the 11th. And how do you feel about it?
You know what? I cannot wait to tour the album. I can't wait for the album to be out because I think it's really, really good. And I hope that right people will hear it. I hope my fans love it. I really hope that like they connect with it and they understand it and they get what I did. I do think it's really good. And I do think it like musically it's really strong and I'm really like proud of that. There's so much in there and it's so satisfying musically. The harmonies, the singing, the instrumental parts, the rhythms, the grooves, the energy. To me, like it's all, I could picture so much of that when I was making it. I was like, this is just like a party on stage, For me, it's going to be like, how much money can I lose to make this the best possible tour that I could ever do. So I think like you learn a lot from touring. And I think the biggest thing I learned from my previous tours is you really can't take touring for granted. And it's like, just make it the best thing you possibly can.
Yeah.
And have the best time ever on that stage with your fans.
I think your fans, the people that are there, they will get it. If you're enjoying it, they can see it's like what you're doing, you love, it's real to you. They'll be on the journey with you.
Yeah. And I think my fans are kind of like me, hopefully everyone will just feel the same way and everyone's going to be like, this is crazy.
Well, I've loved this chat and I've loved hearing all of this and your passion. It's just so inspiring, yeah. But like, I feel like it's radiating off me.
Infectious.
I'm going to go out and like take over the world.
Yeah.
It feels good.
Absolutely.
I've got one last question.
Yes.
Where's your Grammy?
I actually don't have it yet.
You don't have it yet?
They send it to you like 3 months later because it's like handmade by one guy, I think. And he has to like engrave everything. And then they email you, I think, to like make sure that they have a correct address so that they don't send it somewhere random.
Where do you think you're going to put it?
I have on top of my piano like all the awards that I've had so far, kind of, which is cool. And it kind of, I like to look at them I think you need a reminder sometimes of like all the things you've achieved. But also I think I might just like put it in the bathroom because I like the idea that people will like go to the bathroom and do like their acceptance speeches and be like holding the Grammy and stuff. And I also feel like a lot of people will be like, is that real? Is that a real Grammy or is that like fake? I'll be like, it's a legit Grammy.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Crazy.
Congrats.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for this lovely chat. Little dreaming. Why
little dancers.
I've got little dancing in my head.
Little dancing.
And
It actually says it on the back of my jacket.
I even have like double check and I was like, do not say little dancers.
Do not say it.
Do not say it. Little Dreaming
the album
will be out in July the 11th, 2025. How exciting.
So exciting.
Thank you so much for coming on The
Thank
Pieces.
you.